Hello, my name's Mike, and I run this channel where I talk about my relationship with media, animation, movies, shows, video games, even just other stuff on YouTube. And today, I'm not trying to make a specific point. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm just honestly asking a question. And please, if anyone has their own answer, let me know. But the big question is, do Nintendo fans have a breaking point? I play stuff on several different platforms, but I grew up with Nintendo stuff. I had a Game Boy Color. That was my first experience with gaming, apart from some DOS and Windows 95 stuff. And then the GameCube was the only console I had growing up. I got into the Switch in 2018. I've been wanting to do a big old video about my whole relationship with the Switch and how it got me back into video gaming and how it also made me aware of some of the considerable negatives of contemporary gaming and the video game industry. And I'll say right up front, I'm going to mention some of the more notable Nintendo controversies of the Switch era, but basically none of them compare to the light speed evil of like predatory microtransactions and just horrible monetization and exploitation of staff and all that kind of stuff. So that's a separate thing. I've talked about some of that before, and other channels have talked about that quite a bit. Honestly, I still think Nintendo, just from a business perspective and especially from a PR perspective, have made some massive mistakes ever since the launch of the Switch, and it has not affected their success one bit. I mean, you know, like any big company, they say that they care about their relationship with customers. I'm not trying to make an argument here so much as just ask, because I guess I would call myself a Nintendo fan. That's not the only thing I am, but I qualify as that, I suppose. There are plenty of other people out there who are big fans of Nintendo and some of the best games they've ever made and all that kind of stuff. But especially recently, we had the most recent Nintendo-centric controversy was, of course, the launch of the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pass, launching for an insane price of $50 a year. We've learned, of course, that the N64 emulation happening via that service is pretty darn trashy, and that it certainly doesn't seem like they put a lot of effort into it. Just for the sake of reminding everybody of some of the biggest controversies during this era of Nintendo, I made a short list just off the top of my head. There's probably a lot of other stuff that other people could think of, but here's what I remember. Certainly the first stage of NSO outrage was just around the fact that the service had bad netcode, period, and it caused and continues to cause a lot of problems for people using the service, especially in really competitive games. Even when they did this massive expansion pass, which cost so much more, I heard nothing about improvements being made to that netcode or to the service's basic functioning at all. Beyond that, we have the fact that they eliminated the virtual console and sort of integrated a tiny fraction of that into the NSO membership, even though, yeah, they've been really just slowly giving out games, and most of them are games that people have played a million times before that are just not that interesting to modern audiences. And on top of that, there's the weird business around how they've managed cloud saves, and specifically some of the biggest games around that people sink many, many hours into, and competitive games, all that kind of stuff, just don't support cloud saves for some reason. I think Splatoon 2, someone can correct me if that's not true anymore, but it was for a long time for Splatoon 2. I don't know about Smash. I don't remember whether Smash does or not. Animal Crossing didn't really, and now it kind of does. If you like really destroy your Switch, I guess you can access a backup. And then, of course, like I mentioned, the most recent Nintendo Switch Online controversy was all around the pricing of the expansion pass and the terrible N64 emulation that's happening there. Beyond that, a big issue that I had was with Animal Crossing's island and save restrictions. They don't let you have multiple islands on the same console, and they gave terrible reasons for that. It didn't make any sense, and it's definitely not a technical limitation. We know that, so I just don't understand. I don't understand that at all. Without getting into a huge can of worms, I'll just say basically all of Pokemon today exhibits or demonstrates Nintendo's willingness to maybe exploit their fans a whole lot for as much money as they can possibly grift them for, across multiple games, of course, and spin-off games and all that kind of stuff. Pokemon Go, how that's been handled. And certainly Pokemon Unite, just the more recent one. What else? And, of course, certainly on the PR side, nothing to do directly exactly with the Switch, but their mass takedowns of ROM sites, constant attacking of emulation, unofficial emulation in different forms. There's the massive kerfuffle with the Smash tournament of last year that basically just got completely blocked by Nintendo. It sort of resulted in a whole mess with a Splatoon tournament where people were trying to support that Smash tournament that had been taken down. All this terrible stuff. There are many more out there. There are many more things that I think Nintendo has done very poorly with regards to both making more money and not completely souring relationships with millions of fans who want to give them money. So that's just a brief survey of some stuff that I've been around for during the Switch era that has absolutely rubbed me the wrong way. Oh wait, I didn't mention Joy-Cons. It is one of the most frustrating for sure, especially because there's that moment in the legal proceedings, right, resulting from a lawsuit here in the States where they said the problem doesn't actually exist at all, which I don't. There must be some kind of legal magic happening there for that argument to make sense in any kind of way, but it's absolutely affected me many, many times. Basically every pair of Joy-Cons I get, they will start drifting eventually. There are quite a few problems with how Nintendo has sort of conducted itself in many of its different operations, different departments, and at times it almost feels like they're coordinating different departments to have like the worst response or the worst strategy possible, specifically when it comes to maintaining relationships with their fans. And I know that Nintendo fans get a ton of flack online, either from like the self-proclaimed hardcore gamer boys and all that kind of stuff. There are people who just seem to be completely okay with everything Nintendo does and whatever. I'm sure they have their own reasons for thinking and acting that way. But in terms of what I would see as like the average Nintendo fan who really likes their stuff, really loves the Switch, is very hopeful that Nintendo's next console will be something really exciting and that's something they'll want to stay involved with for many more years to come, but who aren't blindly dedicated to this company. For those people, which I think is most of us, and I would probably say that I'm one of those people too, what is the breaking point? And in terms of what a breaking point would mean, we are specifically talking about a significant drop in sales and revenue for Nintendo worldwide. Because nope, sorry, any other backlash you want to talk about, especially online backlash, it means absolutely nothing. I can't stress that enough. I also talked about that in my video on microtransaction stuff. It is incredibly irrelevant. I'm sorry. It just is. It's not going to change the tides. Significant revenue loss will. Significant revenue loss forces people running a company to question decisions and to maybe question leadership, maybe try to make changes and improvements in order to make more money because that's their ultimate job. So again, I'm coming back to it. I am asking you, the person who clicked on this video, what is the line? What is the line that they would cross where you would be like, you know what? I'm done. And it's not just, I'm not going to buy a game. It's the point of saying, I don't want to be involved in this company's product ecosystem, because that's the most important thing right now. I think that very few games on any platform are actually system sellers. I think for the most part, people get involved with the platform and that influences many more subsequent purchasing decisions. If being involved in that ecosystem is convenient and enjoyable and it gives you what you want, you're going to stay involved in it, and that's where some real money comes around because it's long-term money for the company. You're more likely to spend money on that platform specifically because you're already invested in it. So what would it take? Seriously, like what would it take for just the average Joe, the average Nintendo fan to say, I'm done, I'm leaving this behind? And I don't want to just guess randomly, but I have one guess, and I think it specifically has to do with an entire new system, because the Switch on itself, it's never not going to be successful. It's already been incredibly successful, and it'll keep being successful until they stop production, and then it's do or die time, because then it's on to the next console. And we saw with the Wii U, it was confusing to people. They didn't really understand what it offered. It seemed expensive for what it was offering. Didn't have a great lineup at the start. The emphasis on the gamepad stuff and dual screen gaming didn't make a lot of sense for most games, even for most of the first party Nintendo games that released on the Wii U. I think that's it. I don't know. That's my best guess, is that if they came out with a system that didn't feel like it was offering enough to convince people to buy it, that's a sort of domino effect, and from there on out, People just won't get involved in the ecosystem, and they'll make way less money from whatever system they happen to be manufacturing at the time. And an especially interesting component of this whole thing is how I personally think that a huge part of the Switch's appeal is the hybrid thing. Of course, that's the whole shtick. Being able to play handheld, being able to play high quality stuff in a handheld format is extremely appealing to a lot of people. And now, we're already seeing plenty of other handhelds hit the market. We have emulation-based handhelds, obviously Valve doing the Steam Deck, which who knows, it could be a terrible flop. Maybe it'll be really successful. And I think, if I remember correctly, the design itself of the Steam Deck is open source. So if other companies see that it's successful, they'll just make their own Steam Decks and keep selling them. On top of that, we have like the more niche handheld stuff like Playdate. The market has made it very clear. A lot of people like handhelds, especially if there's fun stuff to play on the handhelds. You know who pays attention to when things make money? Basically everybody who also wants to make money. And you can't ignore the massive amount of success that Nintendo has experienced via the Switch. I can basically guarantee that we're going to see more competition in the space of like capable handhelds. I just think it's going to be a thing. If Nintendo doesn't stick the landing in their offering for the next generation, I think that's it. I don't think there's a lot of wiggle room there at all. It happens or it doesn't. But again, I'm very curious to hear from people. This is just a real quick and dirty video that I made almost exclusively just for the thumbnail. I like the thumbnail, so that was a big motivator for sure. I want feedback. I want people to explain this to me. And it doesn't have to be just Nintendo either, but like, is there a line a gaming company could cross, or like just a company in general where you're like, you know what? No, I'm actually gonna make some kind of stance here, even if my change of heart doesn't make a difference in the big picture. Please tell me. Please tell me. I'm so curious to hear what this is all about, how people feel about it, and I want the comment section to get lit up this time around, and I'll try to respond to stuff until I get tired of it. Basically, that's it. Thank you for joining me for this short video. I'm working on a video for Craig of the Creek. Very excited about it. I love that show a whole lot. And another more conceptual weirdo video. So if you want any of that kind of stuff, please stick around. And that's all. Thanks for stopping by.